Today is Vesak, Chinese Vesak. Tomorrow is Tibetan Vesak. It's actually Vesak is neither Tibetan nor Chinese or American. Okay, it's just the day that we have selected to celebrate the Buddha's birth, his enlightenment, and his parinirvana. And so for that reason, it's considered the most sacred day of the entire year because 3 of the Buddha's 12 deeds were performed on this one day. This is according to the Tibetan tradition. Other traditions schedule the birth like a week earlier, and they have different dates, what to do. But it's a very precious day because especially when you think of the Buddha's enlightenment, this is where we're going and what we want to attain through our efforts, if not in this life, then sometime in a future life. And I find it very helpful, on this day and also on other days that aren't Vesak, to consider the Buddha's life and use his life as an example for us. Because he came from a very cushy environment and he excelled in everything he did. Not that, we didn't always excel the way he did, but the idea was that he had this perfect samsaric life, except when he went to town and saw people getting old and sick and dying, it shook him up and made him think, well, everything looks great, but maybe it really isn't. And these appearances are rather deceptive. And then especially when he saw a mendicant in the town, then it really made him think, because he learned that a mendicant was somebody who was really looking beyond this life, who was seeking to get out of the cycle of birth and death. And so that prompted him to give up his very luxurious life, all his comforts, and not just to give up the environment, but to give up the mind that says, I want what I want when I want it. And the mind that says, I want to do this and nobody should restrict my freedom. And the mind that says, life hasn't treated me properly and it should do more for me. And so all those kinds of attitudes that we often get stuck in that are based on self-grasping ignorance and fueled by the self-centered thought. And so his renunciation was really an indication of his wish to overcome those impeding internal mental factors. And so with that, he went out to seek a teacher. And he studied with 2 different teachers who taught samadhi. He attained those very high states of meditative absorption. But he also knew that they weren't full awakening, that attaining deep states of meditation and that concentration did not in and of itself eliminate the ignorance that fuels the constant rebirth. And so he eventually had to leave those teachers and set out on his own. He did a period of extreme ascetic practices. He also learned that didn't, tame the mind. And so then he crossed the river and went into Bodh Gaya and sat under the Bodhi tree and made a determination not to stand up until he had attained full awakening. And so that night, all hell broke loose, And so attachment appeared in the form of beautiful women trying to entice him. Anger appeared in the form of weapons trying to destroy him. But he weathered all of that, and then at dawn of the full moon of the month of Vesak attained full awakening. And so that's the day that we are celebrating today. And so it's not just celebrating the Buddha's awakening, although certainly it involves that, because without the Buddha, we wouldn't have the opportunity to learn the Dharma. There wouldn't be the Sangha. But it's also celebrating human potential to become a Buddha. So the Buddha's enlightenment we rejoice at, but it indicates to us our own potential and the potential of each and every living being. So it's a day that we really rejoice at human potential and redouble our efforts to actualize to make use of our own potential for the benefit of all beings. And so for that reason, all the merit that we create today and tomorrow, we have 2 Vesaks back to back. The merit increases, I think it's 10 million times or some huge number of times, because we're really remembering the Buddha's enlightenment and human potential and our own potential. And so trying to make use of it while we have this life, because this life doesn't last forever. And the opportunity we have to practice and to be generous and to keep ethical discipline and to meditate and so on, that opportunity does not last forever. So today especially, we really want to remember that and make use of that potential. Okay? So I really encourage people to reflect on renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness today. And as Gyaltsab said, we talked about it in last night's teaching, that until we have an understanding of death and impermanence, attaining insight is not going to happen. So to really remember that, and which is also part of today, it's the Buddha's parinirvana, when he left this life. Again, showing us that lifespan is limited, and even famous people, even great people, also are subject to impermanence and passing away. So to make our life really meaningful and useful.